1968, Montana. What looked like ordinary ranch land held the only human ever found with America's most mysterious Stone Age toolkit, Clovis. Official history claimed the first Americans vanished long ago, but buried beneath shattered bones and blood-red ochre lay over 120 ancient weapons, rewriting everything. A single child's DNA would upend who really crossed into the New World and why almost everyone got it wrong. What secrets did that grave unlock? Beneath the shadow of a rocky outcrop near Wilsall, Montana, the teeth of a backhoe bit into layers of ancient soil. Gravel workers, focused on their day's haul, watched as the blade exposed a sudden discovery. Fragments of bone stained a deep, rusty red. The land belonged to the Anzik family, who had given permission for the dig, never suspecting that their ranch would yield a find like this. As the dirt shifted, more pieces tumbled free. Sharp-edged stone points, delicate bone tools, all dusted with ochre. The count kept rising, dozens, then over 100 artifacts, each one shaped by hands thousands of years gone. Work ground to a halt. In the stillness, the realization set in. These were not just rocks and bones, but traces of a child and a vanished people, hidden for 12 millennia beneath Montana's grass and stone. Across the expanse of ancient North America, a single style of stone tool began to appear. Sleek, fluted spear points, expertly chipped for strength and precision. 10,000 of these points had been found from the Atlantic seaboard to the Pacific, their edges still sharp after 13 millennia. The people who made them hunted mammoths, mastodons, and giant bison, relying on these weapons as the Ice Age drew to a close. But survival was never guaranteed. Around 12,900 years ago, the climate lurched into a deep freeze known as the Younger Dryas, turning grasslands into tundra and pushing the great herds toward extinction. The Clovis people adapted, moving with the changing herds and carrying their fluted points across a continent. For decades, scientists traced their origins to a crossing from Siberia over the Bering Land Bridge, searching for clues in the scattered tools and bones. Yet, with only one known Clovis burial, every new find carried the weight of rewriting what we know about the first Americans. 12,600 years ago, a small child was laid to rest in Montana, surrounded by the tools and colors of his people. He was no older than 18 months, a life cut short before memory could form. His body was wrapped in animal hides, then dusted with red ochre, an earthy pigment that stained bone and stone alike. Around him, more than 100 objects were carefully arranged, fluted spear points, scrapers, and bone tools carved from the remains of mammoth and elk. Each artifact was chosen with purpose, a final offering from a community that depended on these tools for survival. The ochre, vivid against the pale fragments, spoke to a belief in ceremony and meaning beyond the hunt. This was not a hurried burial, it was an act of care, a farewell shaped by hands that understood both grief and tradition. In the silence of that ancient grave, the Anzik child became more than a loss. He became a bridge between worlds, his story waiting beneath layers of ochre and time. After the discovery, the Anzik child's bones and ochre-stained artifacts traveled from Montana to Texas A&M University, where they rested for decades in carefully cataloged storage. Shelved among the collections, the remains became a subject for study, measured and examined by generations of archaeologists who could only guess at his origins. The radiocarbon analysis, completed in the years after the find, fixed his burial at 12,600 years before present, older than any other known North American burial tied to Clovis tools. Among those drawn to the mystery was Sarah Anzik, who had been a young child when the grave was uncovered on her family's land. Years later, her path led her to molecular biology, where she found herself confronting the same questions that haunted the field. Who was this child, and what could his bones reveal? As a scientist, she became the bridge between the past and the present, helping to move the Anzik remains from museum shelves to the lab bench, where fragments of ancient bone would soon become strands of data and DNA. The stage was set for a new kind of investigation, written in the language of DNA. Inside a sterile lab, bones from the Anzik child were handled with strict protocols to guard against modern contamination. Technicians wore full bodysuits and worked in positive pressure cleanrooms, isolating DNA from deep within the bone. The team sequenced the genome to an average depth of 14 times, a level rarely achieved with remains this old. To confirm the DNA's ancient origin, they looked for a telltale pattern, cytosine deamination, a chemical change that accumulates over thousands of years. The signature damage, seen at fragment ends, provided a molecular timestamp, proving the sequences truly belonged to a child buried 12,600 years ago. Genetic analysis of the Anzac child revealed a direct ancestral link to the vast majority of Native Americans alive today, and his DNA was closer to 52 indigenous groups from North, Central, and South America than to any other population on Earth. No trace of European ancestry appeared, refuting the Solutrean theory that Clovis came from across the Atlantic. Instead, the closest connection pointed to ancient Siberia, echoing the 24,000-year-old Maltaboy. These results reshaped the story of the first Americans, aligning with archaeological finds like Monte Verde and White Sands that show people were here long before Clovis. In 2014, after years of scientific study and consultation, the Anzac child was reburied in Montana soil, with tribal representatives and family members returning him to the earth as an honored ancestor. Anzac One's DNA still shapes our understanding of who Americans are. As new evidence emerges, the story of the first arrivals remains unfinished, written not just in bones, but in living bloodlines. Share your thoughts below.